is calling for the coroner to return any funds received relative to accumulated leave.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move on the motion.
Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by
Gene.
Mr. Belisario. Any?
Maureen?
Everyone wants a second. And Ms. O'Brien. Counsel, Gene, do you have a question? Okay. Mr. Stefancic, do you, sir, have a comment?
Yeah, I want to say this. I've worked for a company for a lot of years. When you get to management levels, you reach a point where in my company, you don't accrue any more vacation. You can't go above that. You can't get paid for it. You know, that situation, at least on a yearly basis, I think that our policies don't allow that to happen in the parish, if I'm correct. So I think that if someone has received, if they've taken vacation and been paid for it and then been paid to work too, I think there needs to be a reimbursement issue involved there. And I've never seen anybody get paid for vacation that they took and get paid to work at the same time. So at least in most cases, I haven't seen that.
Well, and I may say I haven't seen anybody be paid for vacation by receiving an accrual at the end of the year and then take vacation and be paid for it as regular pay on the weeks that you're on vacation. So this is just simply calling for the coroner to return any funds received relative to accumulated leave. Motion was by, excuse me, Mr. Falconer.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. I think we've talked about this an awful lot, and I think we all agree that everyone in America is entitled to due process under law. But there comes a point in these issues where it becomes so obvious, or at least so plain, that an error, giving him the benefit of the doubt, has been made, that I think it's entirely appropriate that he return those funds to the coroner's office, and then if it turns out that his actions are upheld in the investigations that are underway, then something else can be done with those funds. But I think this is entirely appropriate, even in light of our desire to give him his right to due process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment.
Mr. Stefancic.
Yeah, I do agree with Mr. Falconer on that, but I'm going to bring something up here that probably nobody else is going to bring up tonight, and that is how we got into this to begin with. One of our state senators gave him total authority over the coroner's office, with the exception of what we have to do from a tax roll situation. And I want the people out here to understand that it is not the council that has all that responsibility. Go read the law that was put into effect in 2007, and that law basically gave the coroner a jurisdiction over his entire office, much like, by the way, most of the other elected officials in St. Tammany Parish. They determine what goes on in their office. We don't. This is a coroner's office. I don't want to see this council get into a position where we're trying to tell the coroner how to run his office, nor do I believe we should tell the assessor or the clerk of court or the district attorney or the sheriff or anybody else how to run their office. But we do expect from them what we passed in the first resolution tonight. That is the information we need to be able to set millage rates and do what our fiduciary responsibility is. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Mr. Belisario.
I'd like to extend on to what Steve is talking about. I'm not in that same boat. I have told through the Finance Committee meetings that next year when we go through the budget review process, we have to come up with more questions. We found out this past year when we looked at the agencies versus the departments, we got data, but it wasn't enough data to really understand what's going on. So we as a group work with the administration and the legislative auditor or our auditing firm to dig and come up with additional questions. I saw the packet that the coroner and the others had put in. It was less information than our department personnel were providing us. So we're going to be expanding that. There's just no two ways about it. The issue that Steve brings up with the legislation, it's a shame it happened because it took away from the council to be able to do anything, which was the wrong thing to do. What's done is done. We just got to start looking with these agencies. I believe we should be able to look at their operations. Are they spending the money the way they should to provide the services that's a part of that millage? If we see that you aren't spending it right, then we have a right to step in as a council.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue? Excuse me one second, sir. Sir, this gentleman in the back was first.
Mr. Bender and Counselor, my name's Alan DeArmas. I've been living here in St. Tammany Parish for 20 years, originally from the lower 9th Ward. And looking at this council, all these great people that we have up here, why aren't you all in charge of what goes on in St. Tammany Parish? I understand we have a president over here, and I think she's doing a fine job, just like Mr. Davis did. Mm-hmm. And we have a main man here, Mr. Bender, that's doing a fine job, plus all the other council members. But how does this guy get away with this? I think you all need to step down on this guy and look at everything he's got. He's too chicken to come to this council meeting because he knows he's wrong. And, you know, I'm not trying to get myself in trouble, nor am I trying to get anybody else in here in trouble. But this is not the way to run a government. Look, people are out of work. Taxes are going up, food's going up, everything's going up. Everybody needs every penny that they can save. And this guy's making $200,000–$300,000 a year, flying here, flying there, going here and going there. And where the people that are on the council are only making $20,000, $25,000 if y'all are making that. I don't know what you all are making. But I think something needs to be done about this, and done now. And for you all to take over on anybody else that's elected in this parish of St. Tammany for any kind of office, that they have to report to you all, and you all should be in charge of this.
Well, and sir, let me first say, number one, appreciate you coming to the podium and making comments. Certainly appreciate your comments about our parish president. I agree with you. I certainly appreciate your kind thoughts towards myself and our council members, okay? Just as a matter of information, okay? And this is the way the law is, and it's the way it has been for years and years and years, okay? In terms of the coroner, no, hold on. I'm not saying that it can't be changed. I'm simply trying, I don't know who's informed in the audience on what particular segment of the law. So just try to have a clarification, okay? Obviously, the parish president does not report to the parish council. We're the legislative branch of parish government, okay? And our role in government are things like drainage, roadways, quality of life issues such as recreation, the trace, things of that nature. Our sheriff's department has a duty of law enforcement, public safety, health and welfare. Our district attorney's office, they have the responsibility to prosecute cases. Our assessor has the authority and the responsibility to determine true market value of property and assess that property. And the coroner has their own singular responsibility to do, and I don't want to go into every aspect of it, but to do the various aspects of coroner's offices, whether it be autopsies or forensic work, etc. None of these entities report to the parish president or the parish council, okay? That is by state law. Actually, the coroner, and I didn't know this until legal counsel told me, and that's why, you know, it's a good saying to, if you're going to pay attorneys, you might as well listen to them, you know? I didn't know that the coroner is actually a statewide official confined to St. Tammany Parish. Every coroner is a statewide official confined to their own parish, okay? So, sir, I appreciate your comments. What we've tried to do as a council, and the parish president has also tried to do, and we've kept each other informed, that is this. We have tried to do what we can do legally. We authored a letter first in January to the legislative auditor asking that they come in and perform what's called a forensic audit. If you look at the Louisiana State Legislative Auditor's website, it will tell you they have the responsibility of auditing, and they mean forensic auditing, of 3,000 or more local government entities throughout the state, okay? Their website will go on further to tell you that they have a staff of attorneys, CPAs, accountants, computer analysts, and IT specialists. I've memorized it. We asked them to go in and perform a forensic audit. That is not what, for example, the coroner or our auditor does. They do a regular CPA firm audit, okay? The legislative auditor got in there. They have been in there. The second thing, there was an issue at some point about salary in a previous legal case in another parish. But when you look at the 2007 law, what a state senator may have intended is not the law. It's what is written. And it says that the coroner shall set all of the salaries of the coroner's office. Now, any attorney, and I know our attorney will agree with me, I know my private attorney in private business has told me this many times. When you write a letter or legislation and you're the author of it, any ambiguity, okay, is on you. Am I correct? So the statement of all salaries shall be set by the coroner. That is currently law, the state law since 2007, okay? We asked the Attorney General to clarify that. We're waiting on that decision. The last thing that we did was send this letter to Dr. Galvin asking for more financial information so that we could work over the coming months to roll back the millage for the taxpayers of this parish. If we can put $1.5 million, $2 million of spendable income back into your pockets and our pockets, everybody's pockets, that's more money to spend in the business community. That's more money to put away for college for our children, or more money to enjoy your grandchildren with, or whatever you want to do. It's your money. That's what we're trying to protect, okay, in that last letter. Now, those are the things that we can legally do, and that is what we have done, okay? But we cannot legally, for example, right now, lower the coroner's salary. We don't have that authority to do that, okay? I mean, we just don't have that authority.
Well, let me ask you something, Mr. Bender.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to set your salary at $200,000 a year?
Sir, let me just say this to you. and I mean this seriously, okay? If I could set my salary at $200,000 a year as a parish council member, I wouldn't.
I know you wouldn't, because you're a fair man.
Our salary is, you're correct, between 20 and 25,000. We cannot set our own salaries. The previous council had to set this council's salary, and our salary is frozen for this whole 4-year term. But we knew that when we ran for office.
Exactly.
We knew that was the job. We're not complaining about that. We're as unhappy about all of what's been on the news and this black eye that St. Tammany Parish has been getting, okay? Not because of the reporters. They're doing their job. They're reporting the news.
And I think Lee Zurich is one of the top-notch guys. That's what we need in this parish, not only in St. Tammany, but throughout New Orleans, all over. Aaron Broussard, everybody.
Okay, now Grandpa Zork, let me just say something here. And Lee's over there smiling, okay?
Look at him, Lee.
Okay.
I know Lee personally.
What was? So let me just say this to you.
When he worked for WWL, not for Channel 8.
I got to tell you, man, you're a real trip at the microphone. No kidding.
Well, you know, I've been a business owner over 45 years.
Yeah.
Owned a business in Slidell for 20 years in the automotive field.
Yep. Hard worker.
And I used to do all the city of Slidell's work.
Okay.
And everything was a sealed bid.
Yep. And, sir,
And I won it every year
That's right.
until 2008. And it was
Right.
taken away from me because somebody beat me by 25 cents a car. They don't look at what type of service they were getting. They were looking at this, the money.
Yeah.
And,
Well-
and like you said, about he could set his own salary and about the money that these people here could be putting back in their pockets from property taxes and stuff like that, and spending their money at other businesses that we have here in the parish, in Mandeville, Covington, and St. Tammany. That's where it should go.
And sir, that is something that the council, by law, we can roll back the millage.
I understand that.
We wanted the coroner to have the opportunity to provide us with financial documents so that we could adequately fund the coroner's office in a minimal way. Adequately. Not overfund. We want to draw down some of that surplus, okay? Now, make no mistake. We met with the parish president this afternoon, myself and Vice Chairman Falconer. We are prepared, okay, to work with the administration to work towards what we need to do with rolling the millage back, okay? So we're doing what we can do, okay?
I understand that.
And I appreciate your comments, sir.
Well, one last thing I'd like to say. I think everybody up here is doing a fine job, even the parish president that we have now. You know, and you know why? Because you love where you live at. And you're satisfied on the salary that you're making. Because if you wasn't, you wouldn't be sitting where you're at now.
Well, we appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get him, Lee.
I understand.
Hi,
Yeah. Yeah.
my name is Diana Norton.
Yeah,
I
Ms.
live
Norton,
in
let
Lacombe.
me stop you one second, okay? We're
I'll be one minute.
No. This
Okay.
is nothing aimed at you.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody needs to understand this. We want to first try to stick to the topic that we're on now, which is the return of the accumulated leave, okay? However, I do want to let everyone know here at home, but particularly people in the audience who want to speak, and you'll have that opportunity, that the next resolution that I'm going to read is going to be a resolution requesting the coroner to resign.
Great.
Okay? So the reason I'm saying that now is that may be what some people want to say. You're going to have that opportunity, okay, when we get to that. Okay, hold on now. You're going to get that opportunity when we get to that resolution next, okay? But on this resolution, ma'am, state your name.
Diana Norton.
Okay.
I live in Lacombe, Louisiana. I'm one of the concerned citizens. My take on this, Dr. Galvin is not the problem. Dr. Galvin is just a symptom of the big problem. And the problem is that we have no internal checks and balances when we have something like this go wrong in our parish. We have no control over our parish government and those people in the government. We need an inspector general. We need an independent inspector general. And unfortunately or fortunately for us, Dr. Galvin and his issues have come forth and have shined a bright spotlight on how desperately this parish needs an independent inspector general to come in here and be able to look at these things, because y'all said you can't do it. You have no control over him, and we need to have an inspector general that can go into somebody's office when he sees somebody that raises his own salary from $80,000 a year to over $200,000 a year in the course of 4 years. And when he sees a home rule charter that allows, council members or allows any parish seat or any parish government that has no term limits in any kind of government offices.
Excuse me 1 second.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
But you just off topic.
Okay. Well, I'm done, but thank you for listening.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I want to make an observation here for those who listen and it sounds good. Let me just provide my own take back, and to tell the gentleman before. Let me tell you, this has been a harrowing experience for a lot of people in this parish, a lot of people, citizens, taxpayers, members of this government, okay? This is not what we stand for in St. Tammany Parish, okay? On a lighter note, sir, I will tell you, I've come to know Lee Zurich personally myself in the last 3 or 4 weeks, okay? And that's from being interviewed, okay? So at any rate, but ma'am, let me just say this to you. The fact is, I don't agree with your opening statement, okay, about the coroner and the symptom, okay? Well, excuse me. If I hear people, I don't care that it's me that's speaking, okay? I asked politely the first time. If anybody wants to boo, then just stand up and boo, and I'll have the deputy remove you. It's common decency. You're asking for the coroner to be decent, then let's us be decent together. First of all, no inspector general, and I'm not referring to the coroner here, by the way. These are allegations. No inspector general can stop any elected official from abusing the public trust if that elected official desires to do so. That's a fact. It is incumbent on everyone that takes the oath of office. When you take the oath of office, you take the oath of office to serve honorably with integrity and in the best interest of the citizens of this parish, no matter which office you take. Okay? Do you think an inspector general could stop someone? How could they stop someone from taking someone to dinner for $300? You can't sit on the person's shoulder every day. But let me add this. The Inspector General does not have any authority over the coroner, the sheriff. Ma'am, it's a fact. The coroner, the sheriff, the district attorney, okay?
Mr. Bender, we're way off the subject.
Yeah, we're
We
off.
have a vote.
Let's go back
No
to our
offense.
original subject.
You know what, Mr. Dean? I put a lot of time and effort into this,
I
okay?
understand.
And you know what? I'm going to take the time to explain to the public, okay?
It just appeared that we were off the subject of what the resolution is about. The resolution is not about whether we want
That's
to
fine, Mr. Dean.
support a Inspector
It's
General.
understood. I'm sorry, Mr. Gould.
If no one else wants to come up and speak on the subject, I would like to call the question now. Mr. Franzo, I know you were talking about something.
You all would like to speak. By the way, Mr.
Whoever.
Rick
Franzo,
Franz, I just want to take a few minutes whenever you're ready. I don't want to.
I wanna add one
When you're
thing.
ready, I'd just like to talk to you guys.
Mr. Dean, if I may, I wanted to add one thing. We have an Inspector General. It's called the State Legislative Auditor. No, it's a fact. It is an absolute fact. That is the person's job. Go on their website. Okay? But that's not our issue right now. I simply wanted to say the Inspector General would not prevent an issue with the coroner's office. Mr. Franzo, would you like to speak?
That's been a tough act to follow. I just want to tell everybody, too, that to understand that, first I want to say good evening to President Brister, to the council, to our chair. And I also would ask you guys to make a resolution to get Lisa into the coroner's office to be the financial advisor over there. No, but I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, too, because, you know, it's been, Concerned Citizen Tammany has done a lot of research on this. And just so you know, the legislation that our St. Tammany legislators went through in 2007 created this big loophole for something like Peter Gavlin to happen. And that's where we have to change it. And I'll be honest with you, we've been working very close with the legislators. We've met with Tim Burns. We've met with A.G. Crow. We've met with Pearson and Hollis. And our goal is to help guide the legislation to close the loophole that has created this disaster in St. Tammany Parish. Now, I just would like to read something that I put together, and maybe some of it might be off track, but obviously I do represent a lot of people, so I just ask you to give me a few minutes of your time. Over the past 2 months, the citizens of St. Tammany have been glued to their television, along with embracing the alternate news media sources on the ever-evolving story surrounding the St. Tammany Parish coroner. The outrageous, arrogant abuse of our tax dollars by the St. Tammany coroner demonstrates flaws in our Constitution and Home Rule Charter that creates an atmosphere that is susceptible to abuse. I want to thank those at the Parish Council that supported the legislative audit, but contrary, I question those who didn't. The reality is the process could take months, even years, to conclude, and we are still faced with the hard fact of Peter Gavlin staying in office. I have stated this before in the media that we will clearly state, and I will clearly state again, that this is unacceptable. Because this is unacceptable, Concerned Citizen St. Tammany is structuring itself and organizing a strategy to remove Peter Gavlin from office. Certainly a difficult task, and that's why I formally asked the Parish Council, the Parish President, to announce publicly that they will support any viable effort to recall Peter Gavlin. To allow Mr. Gavlin to maintain his position as the coroner for ever how long the process may take is simply not acceptable. It is apparent that the St. Tammany Coroner's Office is way overfunded with inflated salaries, exuberant expenses, and $14 million of surplus sitting in his bank. Yet at every corner, taxes are raised, and people are suffering. I appreciate your resolution on the reduction of 1.7. We have our team, our advisory team, we have met with various coroners around the parish. I believe that you can get that 4 down to 1 and it would operate very efficiently. The CCST advisory team and I have met with Senator Crow, State Reps Kevin Pearson, Tim Burns for the development input on legislation for an Inspector General in St. Tammany Parish. Our team has been in discussions with the Orleans Parish IG, and we believe the model they have implemented would work excellent in St. Tammany Parish. We have given IG drafts to all St. Tammany legislators, and they all are very supportive with our fundamental design. The IG is part of a larger CCST agenda, which is to make changes to the St. Tammany Home Rule Charter. Parish Council, Parish President, I respectfully ask you to invite CCST to engage in open discussions about changes needed to the Home Rule Charter. The changes...
Wait, excuse me.
I just have about one more minute.
Excuse me, Mr. Franzo. I've given you wide latitude, and I hope you understand that. The Home Rule Charter is not the subject tonight. It really isn't.
But it is. I respectfully disagree with you.
It's not. How much longer do you have?
I only have about 1 minute and I'll be done. If you can just let me finish it, I appreciate that. Thank you. The IG is part of the larger CCT agenda, which is to make changes in the St. Tammany Home Rule Charter. Some of the key changes we want to see in the Home Rule Charter are as follows. Term limits on all elected officials.
Okay, excuse me, sir, Mr. Franzo. That's it. You're finished.
Why?
It's not about term limits.
Okay.
Sir, listen to what I'm telling you.
Okay, then can I just skip that and finish?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Okay.
Okay? Wide latitude, I said earlier, okay, we're on the subject of calling for the coroner to return funds. I preceded that by saying the next resolution is going to be calling upon the coroner to resign. If we get a yes vote, okay? The Home Rule Charter, term limits, all of that, that's an issue that, you know what? That's not tonight's issue. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Belinda Parker Brown, and I'm with Louisiana United International. I'm very concerned about, we're going to call the coroner to resign tonight, and I'm hoping that we get an anonymous vote for that. I'm also concerned about, there were $700,000 that was given from BP money to the coroner's office. Have anyone identified those funds for mentally ill people that was supposed to help them in some type of program? And I think it has something to do with the suicide prevention.
Okay, ma'am, in terms of BP money, okay?
Well, it's the $700,000 that was supposedly had been given to the coroner's office.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would like to see if we can identify those funds and what happened to that money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Morning. Call the question. Motion by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Groby and Belisario. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
The third resolution is a request for the coroner to resign. Be it further resolved that in order to restore the public trust and confidence of the citizens of St. Tammany Parish in the position of coroner, that the coroner resign. Need a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Falconer, seconded by Ms. O'Brien and Mr. Groby. The last two votes were unanimous. Okay? Anyone from the council wishing to speak? Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think something that has to be said tonight, and certainly This whole thing with the coroner, the arrogance shown and the greed and all that is disgusting to me and anyone else on this board here who attempts to kind of do things right all the time. But I got to tell you, ask yourself, how did he get that $14 million bucks? We voted it in. He came up for a millage. I voted against it, but he came up for a millage and asked for it. He brought, and what was really disgusting to me, and I've shared this with some of my colleagues here, he brought an elderly lady who was, I think, somehow or another attacked, or do y'all remember I don't know if you remember the whole thing.
Yep.
And he brought her up there and he gave her as evidence, and she sat up there, and I don't know if she was, I don't know if she was raped or whatever, but it was a horrible story. He gave her as an example of why he needed that tax. So, beware of snake charmers, He charmed people into voting for that tax, and now he has a huge surplus. So I guess I'm just kind of saying, going forward, please, and I'm not saying don't vote for any more taxes, because that's not where I'm going on this. But I mean, in a way. But at the same time, please look into it a lot further, much further. He charmed people into voting for that thing, and now he's got a huge surplus, and you see the salaries and the abuse. It also comes up when, every year when we have our tax bills. Watch what you vote for. Ask a lot more for what it is. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Grovey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. When this all broke, you look back at everything and you look at yourself and you say, you're not only an elected representative, you're a voter and a taxpayer as well. I'm proudly serving District 7. I'm happy to do it. But the reported actions of our coroner are 180 degrees opposite of what we're up here trying to do. It is disgusting. We cannot bend, or even, in my opinion, he's broken the public trust, possibly irreparably. As a public servant, we're almost trusted blindly. We take an oath. We're up there based on your consideration of putting us in office. Everything we do, we're supposed to be working for you 365 days a year. But by the actions we're doing tonight, hopefully this stops now. And that's so that the audience knows, because I know so little about the IG position, I've written the AG for guidance on how we might create it. I'm waiting for an answer back formally.
Mr. Stefanski.
Yes, Mr. Bender, this is, and for the people out here, and the reason I spoke on the other two, I'm going to speak on this one as well. I've served District 11 for 25 years now, and I believe I've served my constituents as well as anyone has. I think that all these councilmen up here are serving their constituents the best way they know how. I look at this and say that from my standpoint, we voted for a millage. We voted for a forensic lab, which is supposed to be established. Whether or not there is enough money there or not, I don't know. Hopefully, Gene will be able to find that out. One of the things that I haven't heard here tonight, and it's been interesting, is no one has questioned the skills of the coroner. What we're talking about is the money situation, and I can understand how that drives a lot of people, especially in the times that we're in today. We do have a method to remove people from office if there is some malfeasance, and I think Mr. Franzo has said they're going to pursue that methodology. And so anyone who wishes to see that happen can sign that petition, and it'll go before the people who elected him. The same people, by the way, who voted him the millage. And they could probably put the millage back on the ballot and turn it down, except for one thing. We have built a building. We've got a building out there that we got to pay for, so that amount of the millage would have to be kept up, whether anything else is or not. We got to pay that on the 20-year note or whatever it's on. I think that I always have a problem, and this is where I'm coming from, probably different than all my colleagues, and I don't mind being the only vote to vote one way or another up here. I've done it before, and I'll do it again, and I may be the only one that votes this way tonight. But I believe that from this body to ask the coroner his resignation, for his resignation, assumes from that standpoint that we believe he's guilty. Now, I've listened to some of the news reports. I haven't seen them all, because lots of times I do go home in time to see the news reports. But I'm not sure I always believe everything I hear and see on TV, and I hope the rest of you don't either, because sometimes what is told us is what the newscaster wants us to hear, and what they don't tell us is sometimes the true story. So my position is this: we have a legislative auditor, we have an FBI, we have a Justice Department that can look into this. We got an FBI that can look into this. We've got a legislative auditor. We got an attorney general that can enforce those rules to ensure that they can get all the information that they need. And my position is going to be that when those people provide a report to us, then I'll make my decision on whether or not we should be requesting the person to resign or not to resign. And I will not vote to ask him to resign tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stefancic. Mr. Falconer and then Mr. Gould.
Yeah, I'd like to just respond to the first comment that my colleague, Mr. Stefancic, made regarding the skills of the coroner. I don't know if the public is aware that you are not required to be a medical doctor to be a coroner in Louisiana. And the reason that is, the coroner is required to be a manager. He's required to manage the office. So if there's not a doctor that can serve as coroner, they get a manager and they hire the doctor. In my opinion, the coroner has failed miserably at this very skill that he's required to have, that is to be a manager of that office. You know, my father gave me a great quote that I have tried to always live my life by, and that is that duty is the sublimest word in the English language. Do your duty in all things. You cannot do more. You should not wish to do less. I try to live my life by that motto. It personally embarrasses me with my constituents, with the people that I see in church, the people that I see at the grocery store, the people I see at the Rotary Club, the people that I see at the Chamber of Commerce board meeting this past week. It is a personal embarrassment to me to have to deal with a person that is an elected official in St. Tammany Parish, elected just as I've been elected, given the same level of public trust, and to fail so miserably in doing his basic duty to the people which he serves. And I have to call into question, as a business person coming from a business background, with this level of disarray in that office, I question whether or not the office can properly function. I can tell you the thing has probably spun out of control over there. It's got to have affected their work product. They have the sword of Damocles hanging over their head with these investigations, and so I think it is absolutely appropriate at this moment to request, then that's all we will be doing, because the coroner has, we have no ability to put him out of office, but we need to be on record as telling the coroner he needs to resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falconer. Mr. Gould.
Mr. Chairman, Reed expressed many of the sentiments that I had. I do want to say that I'm going to cast my vote and was one of the sponsors of this resolution in favor of it, not because I'm trying to determine whether a gentleman has done something illegal or not, but it's quite apparent to me that office has been mismanaged. Grossly mismanaged. There's no question in my mind at this point having seen everything that's going on, and I am concerned about whether that office is going to be able to function during this ongoing investigation. So that's why I would like to see him step down.
Thank you, Mr. Gould. And before we, I know I'm going to go to our parish president. Ma'am, if you don't mind, I want to say just a few words on this resignation. As council chairman, when I started talking with Mr. Han and our legal staff on this and other council members, in the very beginning of this, we followed the processes. We went to the state legislative auditor, we wrote the attorney general, we asked the coroner himself to appear, we asked the coroner to provide the necessary documents to roll the millage back. Just as a point, Mr. Franzo, and I'm not correcting you, but just as a point of clarification, I wish we could roll back to 1 mil, but we need at least 1 mil to pay off the debt every year. We have to withhold the debt payment, okay, on the bonds, okay? So that's why we think it's up in the 2, a little bit over 2 range, but we'll work towards that. But Mr. Falconer, I have to say, not just because I agree with him, spoke eloquently. Mr. Gould spoke almost eloquently. My good friend, and you might not know it from my outrage comment, but my good friend, Mr. Dean, and he is my good friend. Well, I'm his, I don't know what we are. But he made a good point in the very beginning about this got voted in, okay? But I have to tell you, I am going to vote, and I think this is the first time I've ever considered asking anyone to resign. I'm going to vote for the coroner to please step down, okay? Because, you know, I'm by voting that way, I am not saying that he is guilty of X, Y, or Z. That is for law enforcement to research and bring to the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney, for prosecution, if applicable. That is not what a vote of resignation is about. But we have a dysfunctional operation. We get a report last November and again tonight that says the coroner's office has 1 vehicle. November and again tonight. 1 vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, clarification, it's 1 take-home vehicle.
1 take-home vehicle. Excuse me, you're correct. 1 take-home vehicle. I read from a public records request on television provided by the coroner's office that there's 2 take-home vehicles. This was one of the reasons that we wanted the answers to these questions. Which is it? Now that's dysfunctionality. That is not, in my opinion, dealing forthright and honestly with your fellow elected officials, the parish council of this parish. And we are responsible for the ultimate millage and funding that office. And yet we don't get that information. It's refused. That in itself, to me, rises now to a level for me to be able to easily vote for the coroner to resign. Because believe me, we are interested in getting our taxes and your taxes as low as we can. But we can't get the financial questions we asked answered. That in itself, for me, I don't have an elected official that's willing to work with us for the good of the people. Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do have a statement. No one is more outraged than I by the reports of the alleged abuse of power in the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office. As elected leaders in this parish, our duty to the people of St. Tammany is to perform at a higher standard and to lead by example. When one of us falls short in this, it's a reflection on all of us and this parish. St. Tammany is home, and when this type of failure occurs, it's not just business, it's personal. The anger we have all felt during the last several weeks is a reflection of our demand to have government that's conducted above our expectations. It reflects our insistence that all government agencies use hard-earned tax dollars effectively and efficiently. For these reasons, this administration has and will continue to assist investigations from all levels of government. And for these reasons, we urge those in the coroner's office to cooperate with parish, state, and federal authorities in getting every question answered, every document released, every fact brought out into the light of day for all of us to see and judge. The deadline for the council's records request has come and gone. The deadline for the formal records request from my administration has come and gone. Other than a letter today declining those requests, we have not received one sheet of paper, one email, or even a phone call. I have consistently said there's no place for a public servant that goes down the road of abuse or squander. And the public trust should never be taken lightly or abused, much less completely disregarded. For all these reasons, I fully support the council's resolutions, including the one for the removal from the office of Dr. Peter Galvin as St. Tammany Parish Coroner, and request that he resign immediately. The process... Thank you. The process and path to justice should be deliberate and thorough, and ultimately, with patience, will serve us all well with the truth. But this parish cannot afford to wait any longer for that resignation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me make my statement.
Thank you, Madam President, for your support. And I might say, and I know, you and I know this, from the beginning, you and I and council members were not in this to do a rush to judgment, but let the processes go. Unfortunately, when obstruction gets in the way, then we come to this. Thank you so much. Anyone from the council else? No. From the audience? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam President, gentlemen, lady of the council. My name is Carl Ernst. I live in Lacombe. I'm one of the advisors on Concerned Citizens of Lacombe, Concerned Citizens St. Tammany. I've been at from the get-go of those organizations. I'd just like to make 3 points, sir, if I may, and I'll be brief. I'm a retired soldier, 33 years, all of it in the infantry. I'm a grunt by trade. I'm not going to be eloquent. I will grunt speak. First on the millages, you've made a lot of discussion. I really appreciate the fact that you all want to do something about what's obviously to most of us that are on the outside of this, not even close to the inside, but having seen some of the public records, on overfunding and therefore opportunities to misuse those funds. And we've seen that, all of us, okay? Those are facts. What we've seen on paper are facts. They're not allegations. Now, whether they become charges legally in a court of law on a criminal charge is something entirely different. But in a business sense, I've been alluded to by several of you, in a business sense, if you're running a business and one of your employees is, you see something on paper, one of your employees is wrong, you take administrative action, you either discipline that employee or you dismiss that employee, okay? That's what's done. That's not a court case in terms of criminal action, all right? I think we're there. He has $14 million in the bank. In the bank. If you rolled his millage back to $1 million, that almost gets to his annual budget, including the building pay down, the note on the building. And so if you spend down, take 2 years to spend down the $14 million, give him $1 million, he's still building an escrow. All right. So what I'm suggesting, I hope that somebody will take one of your accountants, somebody that's truly a financial person, will say, look, how spending down to $14 million, how long will it take to spend it down to zero, and how much millage do we need to take to build it up so we don't run out of money? Because that's what you're talking about. We, the taxpayers, are going to have to pay him under this scenario for 2013 taxes next tax bill. And so I'd say start now. If you got the authority, roll it now. Roll it as far as you can roll it, because he's got $14 million in the bank. And do that as quickly as you can do it, all right? Now, sorry, I want to say one thing about the IG. I was an Inspector General in the Army, so I know a little bit about it. We worked with the New Orleans IG, and the state IG was in a meeting with us last week, okay? The New Orleans IG charter will allow, I'm going to correct you for one thing. New Orleans IG, if you apply that to St. Tammany, will allow the IG to go any place. Into the sheriff's office, the coroner's office, the assessor's office, any place public money is spent. Any place, they follow the money, okay? Whether that's state money or federal money, they can follow public money. They are law enforcement officers without arrest power. So they can walk in, they can talk to anybody, they can demand any record, they can demand email traffic, they can do it on the spot on their credentials. All right, so if you say, I want to see your records, and you couldn't get it, if we had an IG, a phone call to the IG, don't need any court order, can go in there and say, we want to see your records. That's the way it works in Orleans Parish. If it works in Orleans, I'm pretty sure it'll work in St. Tammany, all right? Now, the guilt or innocence, that's for a court of law. If there's an FBI investigation, they're going to determine. We've all seen the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Orleans at work. They do a pretty good job of it. But it takes years sometimes, years. I don't think we should have to, any of us in this room that pay taxes in St. Tammany, should have to put up with 3 more years of this stuff, okay? I'm sorry. We should not. The people of this parish deserve better leadership out of those we elect, and he's dishonoring you and us with unethical behavior. And I think we need to end it. We're going to be paying his pension for the rest of his life regardless under the current system. So I would say let's not let him accumulate 1 nickel more than we absolutely have to. So that we all appreciate very much that you all will vote on a resolution to ask for his resignation. My gut says if he had any intention of resigning, it would have happened. It won't happen. Assuming it won't happen, Rick mentioned if the public has to do this from the bottom up, and looks like we may have to, will you join us in a recall election? Thank you very much. All right?
Thank you, sir. Excuse me 1 second, sir. Mr. Ernst, I appreciate your comments. Let me, because I was confused on this very issue as well, and if I could, just so that we make sure it's a point of clarification. It was explained to me that the 14 million, and Ms. Leslie, I'll if you don't mind, I'll let you, once I make a little brief statement here. The 14 million is not all surplus available, okay, to be spent as we're talking about it, okay? We've got about 6.6 million that we want to start drawing down from by rolling the millage back and making them spend true available surplus funds. Now, Ms. Leslie explained to us in the audience why there's a set that makes up this 14 million that we can't touch.
That's correct. When I reviewed the financial statements for the year ended 2011, and I saw the $14 million that has been referred to in the news, what I saw was that of that $14 million, approximately $7 million of that is receivable, because from an accounting standpoint, you will recognize revenue in the year that it is earned. So, for example, in 2011, when the tax bills go out at the end of December, you are recognizing the revenue, but you do not have that cash. So what I had told Mr. Bender and the administration was that of that $14 million, you have to remove the accounts receivable, and then what we do is allow for a minimum fund balance for cash flow, which would be about a 25% of their operating expenses for the year, which would then bring it down to an available balance of $6.5 million.
Right.
That could be, I guess, used over a period of time.
Yes. And so, I just wanted to clarify, okay? Knowing that, what we have available is about $6.5 to $6.6 million. And the plan that we have been working on to put in place, and I'm going to be calling for the month, and we're going to do it early, okay? But that's why these records was so important, okay? Because now we're going to work with the administration and literally work backwards to how much can we use of that $6.5 million surplus. And you're correct, sir. Our plan is to take that $6.5 million over the next 2 years and take as much of it as possible, put it to use for operating expenses, that so we can roll millage back to the minimum possible to strictly minimally fund that office, okay? So that, I just wanted to clarify why it's about $6.5 million, okay? Anyone else wishing to speak?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question on salaries and all that. My discussions with different legislators, the only way we can actually get those down is through legislation.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And I would just tell you that with Paul Hollis is holding a bill for us to look at how we can take the control of the coroner's office and bring it to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the control on the budget, bring the control of the salaries over to the parish council as well. Obviously, it's in the discussion stages, and I imagine you people will be involved as well.
Sure.
But I just wanted to clarify that I thought, too, that it has to be done legislation to
Yeah.
actually get those salaries down. But if we can take the other money first and then work on getting realistic salaries, because I researched the entire United States, and I'll be honest with you, he gets paid more than anybody in America. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. And when I said earlier that we are going to do what we can do, okay? Right now, what we can do is this millage, and we can vote on a resignation, and we can ask for these records, okay? And we can ask that you return any unearned income that doesn't belong to you, okay? That's what we're doing. As far as we have to undo that 2007 legislation, and we're hoping that our state delegation, we met with the parish president again today, myself and Mr. Falconer. We want to review any bill that would be coming out of the state delegation, okay, to make sure that not only we're in agreement, but, you know, I can tell you, in this process, folks, I'm so proud of my colleagues because virtually every member of the dais up here has been involved in one way or the other in the discussion, in the brainstorming, in the attempt to get back to what we expect in St. Tammany Parish, which is good government, okay? We have been taking this to heart, really have been, okay? And we appreciate your comments. Who is next? Thank you for whoever clapped. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to go to this gentleman, and then, sir, you'll be next. And, ma'am, did you raise your hand? Yes, sir. Okay, we'll take you in order. Do me one favor if you don't mind, okay? If we could maybe not repeat, okay? All right? But come on, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam President, and council members. My name is John DeHamelcourt, and I represent the Republican Party, and in that large seat, I currently serve as the vice chair of the Republican Party.
Okay.
I have a couple of quick questions. Assuming that the coroner embraces your recommendation that he resign, who then, by statutory, would run that office?
We discussed that today. I'll let Mr. Hand answer that.
I believe that it would be the deputy coroner.
Okay, and how reasonable is it for us to expect that that person would be able to properly manage that office and begin to move it in a direction where it would renew the confidence of the citizens of this parish?
Well, I mean, sir, that I got to be honest with you. I have no answer for that. I mean, in terms of that person's particular abilities, I don't know. But an election would be called. Okay, this would be an interim. It's kind of like, you know, with the Saints this year, an interim head coach or several interim head coaches.
Caretaker.
This would be on an interim basis, and then there would be an election called, and of course, we the people would hear the qualifications of anyone who would want to run for the office and have the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Sir, you're next. Okay, and then the lady back here, and then you, sir.
Lady President, Mr. Bender, Chairman, Mr. Hand, Legal Counsel, and all the other people on the board.
Yes, sir.
You said you wanted to please ask him to step down. Don't say please. Demand him. Just like he demanded what he wanted from us, and we gave it to him, we need to demand him to step down. That's all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, let me just
Yes,
point of
Mr.
clarification. There is no word please
No,
in my motion.
it's called, no, and you're correct, Mr. Falcon. Our legislation says requesting the coroner to resign. We are trying, by the way, to be professional. Okay?
Request for the money.
I got you. Ma'am, come on forward.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Harris Dumas. I'm not coming up here to criticize anyone, and I'm not saying I haven't heard all the issues, because obviously everyone has to be neutral and respect due process.
Sure.
But one thing that alarms me, because it has been a problem in other parishes, and once more, I'm not criticizing anyone, in reference to the mentally ill in our parish. I have been victim to, me and my family, watching one of my relatives die unjust and the facts not match. We have children in this parish. We have brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. Please, I beg all of you to see us through in reference to the mentally ill or criminally insane, in reference to not having a coroner. We have to have a coroner. While you guys are recalling the sky or whatever you decide to do, please be sensitive to that matter, because otherwise St. Tammany Parish will have 5 Google search engines saying parish council or whomever, and I'm not accusing you guys, didn't address this matter when they recalled this man. Now, one thing I have to give Dr. Galvan, I know people who've been mentally ill. His staff has been awesome in reference to that, going out and trying to help the mentally ill. We don't need to have any deficits in that area. I have had to cry myself personally, and I beg of you, please don't let anyone else cry. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, there would never be a moment that we did not have a coroner. Immediately upon resignation, there would be a coroner in place to take all those duties. So please assure everyone we would never be in that position.
And by the way, our parish president makes a good point. I mean, ma'am, just so you'll know, and I'm glad you brought this up. No, listen, you brought up a good point, okay? We supported unanimously, along with the parish president, that the governor consider not closing down Southeast Hospital. We feel for people with mental issues. It's a difficult situation, okay? Now, the other thing, though, I want to say is, and I'm glad you came up, we need to differentiate, and we really do need to do this, okay? We need to differentiate the actions of a person, the allegations towards a person, and all of the good people that are working in that office day in and day out, okay, and doing good work, doing good forensic work, to work with our district attorney, okay? I mean, let it be known that we are not condemning the actions of every person that works at the coroner's office. And we really do want to see, and we've even discussed it somewhat, the possibility of some of these, if we can get more efficient in that office, the possibility of having more funds available for suicide prevention, okay? But again, that's down the road a little bit. I just wanted to be clear, though, we don't know anything more than right now the face of the coroner's office, Dr. Galvin, and that's all we're addressing at the moment, okay? So thank you. Yep. Yes, sir.
Sonny Bourgeois, Slidell.
Yes, sir.
I really just have a couple of questions to clarify a couple of things just for myself. This $14 million we're talking about in relationship to the November 2012 coroner's report?
Yes, sir, but now remember the explanation on the $14 million.
Right, it's now down to 6.5.
That's correct.
Was that information along with take-home calls, was that included in this November 2012 report?
We were given a report that said one take-home car.
What about the 6.5 or $14 million? Was that in there?
It's obvious, okay, in a little bit of information that was, excuse me, Ms. Leslie.
Not in the November report that he's referring to that you have in your hand. That was relative to the 2013 budget only.
Right.
Okay, so y'all didn't know anything about this $6.5 million that he had accrued?
Well,
or salaries, y'all didn't know what his salary was?
It's a calculated number. You're talking 14 million, it's 14.4. You work that down from the
Right, I
immediate
understand
reserves
that.
to get to that number.
But was that either the 14 or reduced down to the 6.5? And his salary and the salary of staff and the take-home calls, was any of that or none of that in the November 2012 report?
So the salaries, if you look at what we were given, the salaries were lumped into one category, which, as Ms. Leslie will tell you, normally on a one-page operating statement, okay, you'll have salaries, you'll have benefits, you'll have categories,
Okay, I can understand. Do you have a number of employees too, so that you know the aggregate that?
Yeah, well, we
means-
learned the number of employees. We were only given the key employees, okay? Later on, we learned the true number of employees, but that'll only give you the approximate of each job. Some of these people are forensics people and so
Right,
forth.
I understand.
Is your question, did I
My question
personally
is,
know?
when did y'all review this report, and when did you start, you said you asked for more information from the coroner. When did you ask for that more information from the coroner, and was it based on the November 2012 report that you had?
It was the December 2011 legislative audit report, which we looked at, viewed the balance sheet. We developed questions off of that, and the staff, the administration calculated the 6.5 to 6.6 million from the fund balance. You have to back off the reserves, because when you look at his balance sheet, he has one line for fund balance in the balance sheet of 14.4 million. There is no sub-fund balances. Correct, Leslie?
Right, and what we backed off was the receivables, because
Right.
what we were looking at was how much cash was in the $14 million. It was not cash.
Okay, I understand that, but when did y'all become aware of this, and did that not cause you any concern that he had so much money? What caused you to start asking questions, and when did you start asking questions?
Well, I mean, sir, he has to appear before us as a pass-through taxing body every year. Like we had Coast, for example, senior citizens. They appeared before us.
Correct.
He appears before us every year as a pass-through taxing body. Now, to clarify that, he doesn't have to appear before us to answer questions along the line that a legislative auditor would ask, okay?
Right.
He has to provide us with simply an overview of his office. That's
Okay.
because the taxes flow through parish government, okay?
Right.
Now,
Right.
if you want to know when did I personally find out that the man's making $200,000 a year, I tell you the truth. I found out when the stories all broke.
So nothing in this report caused anybody on
Because
this
it never
council-
stood out. It's gross aggregate salaries.
And you knew how many employees he had. And
Well-
there was no, let me put it this way, there was no discrepancy between any other department. Nobody said, gee, that's a lot of money in salaries for the number of employees he has. That never triggered anything with anybody on the council.
Well, sir, I can't answer for every council member, okay?
Okay, all right.
And if you're trying to get to, should we have known something further when, okay?
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, let me tell you what he provided us, okay? And then maybe I would ask, what would you expect? The current supervisory positions, Dr. Peter R. Galvin, coroner. Melanie Como, executive director and in-house counsel. I would not expect either one of those people to be underpaid. In other
You
words,
wouldn't expect them to be, what?
underpaid.
Underpaid, right, okay.
I wouldn't expect $200,000 a year. Okay? Mark Lombard, Chief of Operations, Dr. Michael DeFatta, Chief Deputy Coroner, Kim Kelly, CPA, Chief Financial Officer, Natasha Poe, DNA Technical Leader, John Lazarga, Chief Forensic Toxicologist, and Laura White, Quality Manager. In terms of myself, when I read this report in November, no whistles and bells went off in my head.
Okay. That's what I'm
Because
saying.
these seem to be high-quality technical positions. I'm just giving you my take.
All the agencies that get money, that get millage, they all have to submit this report to you, right?
They have to do kind of a broad pass-through report before our finance committee. Does it look relatively right? Does it look this? Does it look that? But in terms of providing the kind of information that they'd have to provide if there was wrongdoing done, would you provide me with your wrongdoing?
No.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
But I mean, I would expect y'all,
to what?
Mr. Belisario said y'all had a right to go look into somebody's expenses and if they come before you and they get a millage. All I'm saying is, I think you had a duty if you saw that he had amount of money amassed that was greater, much greater than any other agency you monitor. And he had similar employees, had too many employees, and how could he have amassed this amount of money? That's when you should have started asking questions, not wait until he came out in the media.
Now,
You understand what I'm saying?
sir,
That's all I wanted to know.
I appreciate you finally saying it because you were beating around the bush for quite a while. Mr. Falconer.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the constituents' information that when we organized the Finance Committee, what was it, Gene, 2 years ago, I guess now.
October 2011.
Yeah, we take a representative sample, which is a large sample of the department heads, or the departments of parish government, and a representative sample, we think it's representative, of the pass-through accounts. I mean, we probably, when you count all of the mosquito control boards, the library board, the fire district boards, lighting districts, sewer districts, drainage districts, there are a lot of pass-through agencies, and we're not equipped to do a forensic audit on all of those agencies. So we try to take a representative sample and have them come in and present their budget. But wait, let me finish. But they do file their annual audit with the legislative auditor every year.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah. Okay, wait, sir. Do you have any other comments?
Yes, sir.
Then you're going to need to come to the microphone. And I'm going to ask you to limit them, please.
Be direct.
No, wait.
I understand you don't do forensic audits. You know, I mean, you're not equipped to do that. You're not trained to do that. All I'm trying to find out is, Mr. Belisario said y'all had a right earlier in this whole presentation to more fully examine what the coroner was doing. I'm just trying to find out if anybody, as an individual or, as a group, had any questions when they saw the amount of money he had in the bank, whether it's 14 million reduced to 6.5 or whatever, as compared to other agencies that you monitor. That's all I want to know.
And we appreciate your comments.
Okay, and also with the passing of the state legislature passing this law, did anybody or did all of y'all as a body object to the state legislature passing a law letting him set his own salary?
We didn't know.
It was done before we even knew about it.
Y'all would never known? Y'all never knew about it?
All 14 of us didn't know.
And
The
it
14 back
passed
in and out.
unanimously in the State House and the State Senate.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Tanner.
I just wanted to make one statement that I can't remember if it was Mr. Bender or it could have been Mr. Belisario. I think we acknowledged early in the afternoon that we need to ask more questions when we do our investigations or looking audit of the agencies that come before us. We were asking generalities and thinking that everybody was up on board doing what they're supposed to do, and evidently that's not the case. And so we've talked about, revising the questions that we're going to ask in the future of those agencies that come before us. And one of them, I'm sure, is going to be give us the salaries of all the people that work in your in your audience, and how much surplus do you have in your cash surplus do you have in your department? Just to let you know that, we're not totally innocent for not being on top of this, but we also are not totally guilty either, because actually we only started this Finance Committee, actually, I thought, he said November 11. I came in office in January of 12 and sat on that Finance Committee, and it was the first time that we had went through a budget with the Finance Committee, and the first time that we had asked other people to come before us, the different departments, the different taxing bodies throughout the parish. And we didn't ask enough of the right questions, but we know better now. So we're going to ask a lot more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Mr. Belisario.
Just two more points, and then someone can take a shot at me. One of the issues we need to get from our bond counsel or from Jim Ryan, when we're starting to talk about the bond payments, we need to know within that agreement that was passed back in 2004, whenever it was for the bonds, were those bonds callable? If they are, there's the cashier to call them to drop down the amount of payments we've got to have. The other thing, when I was talking about we're going to have more questions, one of the things I've done with our staff and the administration, I've done a good job on it, is looking at the fund balances and doing a flow of by year to see what was put into them that was removed because you needed to do that. What I've told Leslie, we have to do more. And one of the things that I want to be able to do is to work with the Legislative Auditor's Office in NACO to get how other counties in this country and other parishes, how they make the determinations of the fund balances, not just to accept them, but to test them. And there where you'll find out if there's excess money to look at rolling the millages back. I don't know anybody's ever done that. We're going to try and do that.
Mr. Belisario, we do that. We do that. We know what percentage that we need to have of a bond to maintain our bond rating.
Right.
And that's how we determine the fund balance that is absolutely necessary to have for that reason.
That's correct. But that's, when we did this in 2011, we just had the one sheet of paper with the fund balance. what we arrived in 2012, as I told you, we went back in time, did a roll forward to look at and question it. We didn't do that with the agencies that came in front of us in October and November of 2012. We're going to expand upon that, but I want to be able to get somebody outside of us to give us some methods to measure and test the adequacy of that. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Belisario. Mr. Stefanczyk, I'm going to come to you.
Quick one, and I'm going to be done. I just want everybody here to understand, again, we voted a coroner, a millage to run a forensic lab. And then in setting in on those meetings in 2012, we don't know that he's fully staffed that. We don't know what equipment he still has to buy. And those are the kind of things we need to look at from the standpoint of whether or not we have any surplus at all in there. Well, and I'm not going to sit here and argue about the salaries. I don't like the salaries either. And I don't get paid that amount of money, so but I think that what we're trying to do is get our hands around this, and it's the first time we've really tried. I want us to continue to try and do that, but I also don't want to shortchange somebody who has promised something to the people of this parish and then can't deliver because the parish council cut the person off from going and buying the equipment they need or going and staffing with the right people to run a forensic lab. And if my understanding is correct, it would be one of the best. When we were told about it and everything, it would be one of the best forensic labs in the United States. Now, do we want that in St. Tammany Parish? I'd certainly like to see it here because it'll bring more business here in the long run if we have that kind of a setup here where other parishes, other states may come to us for some of the services that we could provide. That would bring money into this parish as well. So I think we're still working on it. It's a thing in process, and I think we will continue to dig deeper into all these things, not just the coroner, but everybody else. And I would go back and tell you, if you don't quite realize what we went through with Coast, we went through a tremendous amount of stuff with Coast, just trying to get how they're spending money, which affects all of the senior citizens in the parish as well. And we're getting a better handle on what we need to do with all those things. So hopefully next year we'll start earlier. Next year we'll get a lot more information, and next year we'll be able to ask a lot more questions that we can't ask, that we didn't ask this time because we didn't know the questions to ask. Thank you.
Hold on.
Mr. Belisario, very quickly, the bonds for the coroner were done before our company was engaged to be the financial advisor to the parish. I would say, and I have not had the opportunity to review the transcript, I would say it's normal and customary when you do a bond issue, there's a 10-year call provision which prohibits you from paying off the bonds for the first 10 years of the bond. You can pay them off, but it's usually with a penalty of somewhere between 2% and 3%.
Let me just, everybody in the audience will know, this is Mr. Jim Ryan, who we brought on as our financial advisor, working on bond issues to try to save us more money and to be more efficient. Jim, thank you for your comments. By the way, before I go to Mr. Falconer, Mr. Stefanczyk and I don't happen to agree on how we're going to vote on this issue, okay? However, I do want to say this. The rumblings, please, okay? You may not agree with what he was just saying, but listen, please. He's owed the right to speak his mind to you, okay? That's the great thing about our country. So, no, he did. But there's rumblings and catcalls and that. Let's try to be respectful, okay? Mr. Falconer.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Falconer, seconded by Mr. Groby, requesting that the coroner resign from office. Please vote.
Motion passes, 13 yeas, 1 nay, no one absent.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Let me, before we take a short break, let me just instruct our council administrator, Don, please put on, make a note to put on our May agenda a resolution discussing, and hopefully we'll have enough information at that point to vote on the rollback of the coroner's millage at May. Now, folks, I want to say this, okay? We have plenty of time to do this, but we want to get to work on it early, okay? So I'm setting a May time frame. I'm not telling you we're going to need to postpone to June. I'm not saying that, okay? But just understand, we want to get it right. And we're going to work with the parish president and her people, and I'm going to appoint a group, okay, to work with them, and hopefully we'll be able to report to the public what the millage will be rolled back to save money to the taxpayers on their next tax bill. Okay? Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute recess, please.